Chapter 1. The Mysterious Mist. It had been an unusually quiet evening, as the five travelers made their way down the winding road that led them deeper into the mountains. The group, two couples and a lone photographer, had planned to visit a small town for the night, but their GPS had begun malfunctioning as the sun dipped below the horizon. Their car was the only one on the road, and the surrounding trees seemed to grow denser with every passing mile. "Are we sure this is the right road?" asked Natalie, the photographer, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "It's the only road on the map," Daniel replied, gripping the wheel tighter as fog began to roll in. He squinted through the windshield, the mist thickening by the second. The air grew colder, and the light from the headlights barely cut through the dense shroud of white. "It's like we're driving into a cloud," muttered James, the other photographer in the group. "Can't see a thing. There's no way this is on any tourist guide." They had been traveling for hours, their intended destination still nowhere in sight. According to the map, the small village of Hollow's Reach was just a few miles away, a remote settlement known for its quaint charm and untouched beauty. But something didn't feel right. Something was off. "I think we should turn around," Anna, James's wife, suggested, her voice quiet with unease. "No," Daniel said, shaking his head. "We've come this far. Let's see this village for ourselves. It'll make for a great photo shoot." They pressed on, the fog thickening with each turn, until finally the mist opened up, revealing a small cluster of houses barely visible in the twilight. "Is that it?" Natalie asked, her voice a mix of awe and caution. The village, standing in eerie silence, appeared as though it had been frozen in time. The buildings were old, their wood warped and cracked by the weather. The streets were empty, not a soul in sight. Streetlights flickered dimly, casting an ethereal glow on the mist that swirled at their feet. "I don't see any cars, no signs of life," James said, glancing nervously around. "This is weird." They parked the car in the center of the village, stepping out into the cold, damp air. The fog seemed to hover in the streets like something alive, curling and twisting around them as though it was aware of their presence. Anna shivered, her hand instinctively reaching for her husband's arm. "It feels like we're not supposed to be here." "Come on," Daniel urged, looking around, trying to shake off the unease. "We're here now. Let's take a quick look around, get some photos, then head back." They walked down the main street, passing dilapidated houses and overgrown gardens. The silence was oppressive. There were no animals, no birds, no sounds at all, just the crunch of their footsteps on the gravel. Finally, they came to the town square. A small fountain stood in the center, water stagnant and dark. The edges of the square were lined with stone statues, their features worn and chipped by time. "This place is creepy," James said, his voice lower now. "It doesn't feel right." Natalie stood by the fountain, looking around. "Did anyone else notice the way the mist moves? Like it's following us?" James turned to look, but the fog had already settled back in, obscuring their view of the houses. It was as though the village itself was slowly being swallowed by the mist. And that's when they heard it. A low, distant sound, like the faintest whisper carried on the wind. At first they thought it was just the wind, but then it came again, closer this time. A voice. "Get out!" The whisper was so faint, so chilling, that they all froze. Their eyes met in confusion and fear. "What the hell was that?" Anna whispered, her breath fogging in front of her. Before anyone could respond, the fog around them seemed to thicken, swirling faster and faster until they couldn't see more than a few feet in any direction. A creeping panic began to settle in. "We need to go back to the car," James said, his voice rising in panic. "Now!" But as they turned back, the village seemed to stretch before them, longer and longer. The street they had walked down now seemed unfamiliar, as though the buildings were rearranging themselves. "What the hell is going on?" Natalie muttered, the fog now so dense that she could barely see her own hand in front of her face. The sound of footsteps began to echo through the fog, and then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the mist began to clear, revealing a street they had never seen before, one that didn't appear on any of their maps. "It's a different street," Anna whispered, wide-eyed. "We didn't walk this way." "How is that possible?" Daniel asked, his heart racing. And then in the distance they saw something. a shadow moving among the houses, just out of sight. "Someone's here," Natalie said, her voice trembling. "We need to find them." The group moved cautiously to